Well, good day to you. It is December the 15th, and I hope wherever you are, you're having a wonderful day. My name is Gary Willing, and as always, I want to welcome you to Search for Signs if you're new, and welcome you back if you have been here before. Now, if you want to know more about this information, look into it, investigate it for yourself. And if you take just another step forward in this information and look in the description portion of these videos, okay? You will see links that will take you to websites that give you really good background information about Maitreya, the Masters of Wisdom. Why are they coming back? What does it mean that they're coming back at this time? Why is it important that they're coming back at this time, for instance? And other links that talk about the priorities of Maitreya. And there's other links that talk about the many miracle signs that have been going on. So there's a lot of different information in there in a lot of different ways. So hopefully you'll look into it whenever you want to do it. Now, if you want to join the discussion, you can post a comment like Zach did. You can post a question in the comment section like James Moran did, or you can email me like Vanessa did. So anyway, and how do you email me, before I forget, is searchforsigns@mail.com. Now, speaking of emails, she sent me an email that I think is quite extraordinary, and I'm going to post the link in the feature link section of the description portion of these videos, and I encourage you guys to check it out because it's coming from the State Department, not the State Department, excuse me, the Energy Department, the United States Energy Department. And the Secretary of Energy, I think that's who it was talking, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know who that person is by name. But anyway, she was talking about this wonderful breakthrough in cold fusion technology that they've been working on for decades, and they finally had a breakthrough in it. And if you don't know, in terms of the environment, what's on the lips of every environmentalist and the politicians who are deeply concerned about the environment, or at least talking a good game about the environment, they're all talking about climate change. We're starting to see the effects of ignoring climate change, whether we want to believe it or not. Now, then there's a whole side of humanity that doesn't agree with that, doesn't buy into it, doesn't want to do anything, doesn't want to change their ways. Now, both sides have got it right. Both sides have gotten it wrong. Okay, now one is closer to the actual truth than the other side. Now, here's the thing, though, is both sides are denying the problem, believe it or not. And even our scientists, even our environmentalists that talk nothing about climate change are ignoring the single biggest problem, which is nuclear power is killing humanity off. It's creating pollution out into the world and out into the atmosphere that we cannot see, we cannot touch it, we cannot taste it, smell it, or anything. But yet, it's killing all of us off. It's making us all sick. It's causing us to be drained and feel tired all the time. And that's because we process nuclear power using fission. It's a very unstable process of doing it, which we've seen the effects of that in Japan and Chernobyl and some other places. But the way we store it, and it is very, very dangerous and destructive to the environment, but it's cheaper. That's the reason why they haven't been doing this other process of cold nuclear fusion. Now, once humanity realizes that that's Maitreya, and we listen to him and we're asking him, what do we do about the environment? The first thing he's going to tell us to do is to shut down all the nuclear power plants and switch over to cold fusion. So it's kind of cool that we've actually just discovered how to do it. Okay, so maybe they discovered it a long time ago and this has just been something that they've been working on. I don't know, but I'm just saying they just came out with this according to this video this week, and I saw some things on the internet about it too, where they're talking about this breakthrough in that technology. It's quite extraordinary. And the thing of it is that cold fusion technology does not destroy the environment the way that the fission process does. And so we could still have nuclear power, clean in that way, perhaps a little bit more expensive to use, but way more beneficial because of the fact that it's not harming everybody the way that this other process is. And so you have scientists who are just as much in denial about nuclear radiation as the right-wing political pundits are about climate change. That's the problem. You see what I'm saying? So they have been told, some scientists have been told that the way that they're processing nuclear power is very dangerous. And yet they say, no, it's fine. See, you put the Geiger counter right up to it, you're not seeing it, the needle move. But yet the pollution is so fine and so light that it's not registered by the Geiger counter, and it goes right through the lead, right through the concrete, right up into the upper atmosphere. So where according to the masters, every droplet of rain has radiation in it. It goes into our food supply, our water supply. We breathe this pollution in with every breath. I mean, it is awful. And if it wasn't for the work and activity of the Space Brothers, which we see evidence of them all the time flying in our atmosphere, and even when we can't see them and they're still there doing this work, they're helping to clean up the atmosphere as much as they can within karmic limits to help keep us alive until we learn to stop doing this. So this process of cold nuclear fusion is a huge step in the right direction as far as I'm concerned. So I'm quite excited to hear that we're actually doing something. You know what I'm saying? Now, the other part of this conversation about the environment and nuclear power is that this isn't the end-all and be-all of it. That this will just be the interim step between the way we were doing it and the way it will eventually be done from then on. And it will take us having to convince Maitreya that we are a totally peaceful people and that we've put war behind us forever. Once we can convince him that that's the truth of who we are, right? We're not violent people anymore. We're not barbarians like we are today. He will allow the Space Brothers to give us the same technology that they have, that they use, called the technology of light. That's how they go from planet to planet. That's how they power their cities. That's even how they use and do medicine to help heal their bodies and so forth, is with this technology. Like, it will totally revolutionize life on planet Earth, according to the masters. But we will have to show Maitreya, like I said, that we're a peaceful people. But until then, we can use this cold fusion technology. It will be safe for the environment. It will be stable. It won't pollute the environment. We'll notice that our vitality will increase, that the bees will come back, the waters in the ocean won't be quite as dead as they are today, and that kind of thing. And it's definitely a step in the right direction. So thank you very much for that information. If you want to know more about it, check out that link. Now, the next question is also kind of along the same lines. It says, what are you doing to save the planet, sir? And I'm assuming you're saying save the planet because at the end of each video, there's a clip of me saying, and remember to SOP, save our planet. Now, one thing you might not realize is that the masters are hoping that that phrase, SOP, save our planet, becomes a rallying call for all of humanity to do something to save our planet. So that's why I put it in there. It's definitely not going viral yet, but I hope, according to the masters, it one day will be very viral. That would be what we're saying. Save our planet. SOP, save our planet. It can be put on shirts. It can be put into a meme. It can be put into a lot of different ways because it's real simple and easy and memorable to think about. But, I don't... I mean, it's funny. I ask myself this question all the time, but I would say the things that I'm doing are not extraordinary and they're not unique. And there's thousands of people who do some of these and millions of people who do other things. Okay. So, in one way that I help SOP save the planet is look at ways of becoming more energy efficient around my own house. Now, I'm not perfect at it. I can't afford solar panels and I can't afford a Tesla, but I have looked at buying cars that are more fuel efficient for one thing. And I have tried to cut down on power and water consumption, all that kind of stuff, which I know is a little bit, but it's something. But everybody, should be doing that kind of stuff. Now, in terms of the other thing, I also, every other year-ish, I guess, whenever the elections come up, I also listen to those politicians who are at least talking about doing something about the environment. I know well enough, and I'm smart enough to know that they don't have the answers yet, but at least they're open to the idea of the environment. I've never once voted for someone who is a climate change denier just because they can give me better tax rates or less regulations on the business that I work with or something like that. I would never do that because I think that it's very short-sighted in thinking that way, and very selfish to some degree. There's other people out there that in fact, there's a whole world out there other than just a business. You know what I mean? So I don't vote for those people. And like I said, I know they don't have the answer yet, but at least when the time comes, maybe they might be a little bit more open to the suggestions of Maitreya for saving the environment and those kind of things than other people who are just in total denial about it. So that's one thing. And then, from time to time, I do put my feet into the streets and march for justice or peace or whatever, or for the environment. Now, the thing of it is, but more importantly, I think what I do is something that I'm not alone in doing too, is talking to people about Maitreya. And so, you might not believe what I believe about Maitreya, and that's fine, but to at least discuss the priorities of Maitreya, I think is another thing that's quite important to do. And as Benjamin Creme would say at the end of every lecture, if you believe this information on whatever level, make it known at that level. If you only believe it at 1 or 2%, then make it known at 1 or 2%. If you believe it at 92%, then make it known at 92%. But don't just sit back and do nothing about it. And you can talk about this information with people in your life however you want to do it. You don't have to start a YouTube channel like this, but that's one way to help the world and help save our planet. Because where this fits in for me, okay, in saving our planet is a couple different ways. One, to start out, to see what you can do to help. This goes for anybody, and I've done this for myself. Is to see the problems in the world, to see what you can possibly do to help ameliorate that problem in whatever aspect, in whatever way you can, based on your own resources, your experience, your abilities or whatever, right? And it doesn't have to be extraordinary, and it doesn't mean that people are going to write music about you after you die, but it could be something really simple that you could do on a daily basis that could help out, right? So then after you see the need, see what you can do, and you should not just sit back and wait for somebody else to do it. You should do something about it. And I'm not just saying you, I'm just saying this is for me too. This is for everybody, right? And so when I used to look in the world and see the problems of the world, a lot of times I would sit back and wait for somebody else to do it. I wouldn't do anything about it. And then as time went on, I was like trying to do something about it. But I kind of made it my mission to talk about Maitreya, to bring this information to the public, just like a lot of other people have done. I've chosen to use YouTube as the platform to do that mainly, right? And I found it to be very effective because, now I'm in pretty much every time I put a video up, I have somebody asking a question, posting a comment, sending me an email about something here or there. And most of these people I've never met in my life. In fact, the vast majority of people I've never seen in person. And yet we're talking about Maitreya, we're talking about his priorities, hopefully quelling some of the fears that people might have about Maitreya. And I'm doing it with people I would have never met in my life if it hadn't been for YouTube. It's quite an extraordinary thing. And I've been quite shocked at the interest that people have had in this information. Now, the thing that I would say for all of us to look at when studying this information and looking at the problems is to look at the problems in two ways. Okay, one, they're there for everybody. There's nobody that's excluded from the issues and the problems of the world, like the environment. That's affecting each and every one of us for sure, right? But what is the real problem? The environment is just a symptom of the problem. Extreme poverty is just a symptom of the problem. Political divisions are just the symptom of the problem. But what is the true problem? And I think the true problem is that we all see ourselves as separate. That's not the truth of existence. We're actually one. Now, Maitreya's gift to the world, the way that I see it, is he will inspire and galvanize humanity, yes, to solve the problems of the world, but he will awaken within the hearts of all of us this latent truth that we all know to be true. It's in our hearts, doesn't matter who we are. He says it's within everybody's heart, is this truth, this longing for unity, this truth about oneness, this longing for peace. And, that's what he is going to awaken within everybody's hearts. And then the problems of the world we'll see have been our teacher teaching us that we are one, is the way I see it. So when it comes to solving the problems of the world, you got to know what the problem really is. And then the problem is that we're seeing life separate. So then it would be to also start to see ourselves as one. So if you're trying to solve the problems of the world, but you still see yourselves as separate, you're not doing as good as you could do, I guess, if that makes any sense. So, that would be the other thing that I would say to really work on a moment-to-moment basis as best you can, is to start to see yourselves as one. And if you think unity and oneness are some utopian fantasy, Maitreya would say they're not. We can actually manifest unity and oneness on this planet, and it starts with the principle of sharing. So, for instance, people march against, for justice. They march for peace. They march for the environment, but they're missing the crucial first step, which is sharing. Nobody's marching for sharing. Nobody's hardly even talking about sharing. And if you use this information, even if you don't believe what I believe about Maitreya to be true, investigate about the principle of sharing. See if what I'm saying is, and Maitreya is saying, is true about the principle of sharing. Will it bring about justice and trust amongst nations? Will it eventually bring about peace? And I offer this up as historical evidence every single time I talk about the principle of sharing in this way. You know, you look at the Marshall Plan. There are links in the description portion of these videos. You can research this yourself. You can see the nations that have participated in the Marshall Plan. You can see the times that they participated in it and blah, 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 blah. But you can look at every one of those nations, because everyone knows the nations that participated in the Marshall Plan. When you see the list, you're like, yeah, I know that nation. That's Britain. I know where that is on the map. You know, that kind of thing. United States, France, Germany, Spain, Italy, you know, those kind of thing. And every one of those nations that participated in the Marshall Plan have not attacked one another since they started the Marshall Plan. So it can bring about trust amongst the nations. Now, why is that important when it comes to things like the environment? The environmentalists are trying to solve the problem through government regulation, when really it should be trust amongst the nations will bring that about. Because right now nations are competing against one another. They're fearful of one another. They're engaged in all sorts of, you know, nefarious acts with one another because they're trying to fight for their own survival. And if sharing will bring trust, even just a little bit of trust amongst those nations, then we can solve the problem of the environment. But up until that point, we won't be able to do it with this nation and not that nation, this nation and not that. You know, it's got to be every nation doing it. And just real quick, if you don't know about the principle of sharing, like I said, investigate it, look into it, you know, when it comes to the Marshall Plan. And that's not how it's going to look per se, but that might give you an example of what I'm talking about. Because when people talk about the principle of sharing, or at least they hear about it, they think they're talking about communism or something like that. It has nothing to do with economic ideology. It's totally different than that. But even if all the billionaires in the world gave half their wealth away, like some of them are committing to do, that's not going to bring about world peace. That's not going to bring about justice. It's nice and it's good for the people who are giving away their wealth, of course. It's also good for the people who are the beneficiaries of receiving their wealth and that kind of thing. But that in and of itself will not bring about world peace. The only thing that's going to bring about world peace is for nations to learn to take a little bit of the excesses that they've been hoarding and giving it to other nations freely. And then those nations have excesses they can give to some other nation or this, that, and the other. And that's the process of the principle of sharing. That will bring about trust and goodwill amongst the nations. And then initially it will bring about enough goodwill to where we can actually solve the problem like the environment. So talking about the principle of sharing is helping to SOP save our planet for sure, because nobody's really aware of that problem. And the solution to that problem based on the principle of sharing that Maitreya talks about. So it's important to talk about it as any chance you get. But anyway, thank you very much, guys. I love you. Thank you very much for the question, James, and the email, Vanessa, and the comment, Zach. I appreciate you guys too. You guys have a great day. We'll look forward to putting up another video soon. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.